All right, Robbie. So this is like my favorite. I love having people in studio.
Oh, yeah.
And today we have Brent James, who is the senior project manager at Tracksmith.
Yes, sir.
And you're on the shoes.
That is correct.
These shoes are causing a bunch of noise. Like people are going crazy.
I love noise.
The Tracksmith Eliot Runner.
Yeah.
Yes.
I find that there's people on all sides of this. You obviously have true fans. The shoe seems to sell out pretty quick when it's up there for sale. Am I right? Like
so far
moving.
it's been a good reception. Yeah, good action on the website. So we're happy.
So we knew that there was a shoe coming. I can't tell you how I knew, but somebody let me know the shoe was coming. And we were a little worried because we were like, Tracksmith's known for really good apparel.
Yep.
To great apparel.
Oh, I'm wearing a base layer right now. I didn't even realize that.
Dude, I'm maxed out. I got the
I love it.
jacket, the pants.
I probably wear this more than anything else in my life.
That is your...
I pretty much only wear a Tracksmith base layer in the wintertime, even though we have I have 30 other long sleeves.
And the crazy thing is he looks good in it.
Yeah, I didn't pay him to say that either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I kind of have to use it as a base layer and put something on top of it because I'm not as comfortable like it is form fitting. But yeah. So apparel, people love it.
Yep.
And one of the things I liked about Tracksmith was that I could wear shoe agnostic. So like we test a lot of shoes. Rob, you feel the same way, don't you? That like you didn't have to. It's not like when I wear, for example, the other day I was wearing a Saucony shoe, and I was getting ready to go out. I was grabbing Asics apparel.
Okay.
And I was like, I can't wear Asics apparel with Saucony shoes.
Because all the people in the dark that'll see.
Yeah, I'll know.
Yeah.
But so I was a little worried. So that when you guys said that or found out that you guys were coming out with a shoe, I was like, oh no, is it going to mess up with my...
With their steves. I get it.
Yeah.
That was the main...
That was my main concern. It wasn't if the shoe was any good. It was if it was bad. But so what was the decision process? Why did a shoe become something that Tracksmith wanted to put into place?
Yeah, I'd say from day one, Matt Taylor, the founder, has had a shoe in mind. He has had the idea of being a global running brand in mind, and this was just a step toward that. So it's been in the works for many, many years. I've been in the brand for about 2 years now, a little over 2 years. But the shoe was in works before I got there. So it's been kind of a labor of love, trying to get it right for the marketplace. And I think just from day one, it's been part of the plan.
And you were brought in specifically to work on this project.
In part, yes. Yeah, my background, I'm a footwear designer by trade. Kind of made the jump to product management about 5-6 years ago. So that was definitely part of the calling for me and part of my interest in joining the brand.
Where were you at before you came to Tracksmith?
So just before we were actually over in France, I was working for Solomon.
Oh, okay.
Helping them kind of launch the road running thing over there for about 3 years. Under Armour before that, and North Face was kind of my first gig.
Oh, cool.
In footwear design. But yeah, that's
Nice.
the short story.
Were you FIT or where'd you go for to learn about it?
Undergrad, I went to UPenn. I was an architecture major actually.
Oh wow.
Did that for about a year and just felt it's a little bit old school for me. Needed something a bit more fast paced, a bit more interesting.
Yeah.
So went back to school, went to Academy of Art actually in the Bay Area.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's where North Face is headquartered out there, so that works out.
So I was intern, and then they brought me on. So
were you a sneakerhead before, getting into this? Like his shoes and footwear always been something that's important to you?
For sure. I think one of the saddest days so far for me was when East Bay.
They're
closing their doors. That was the Bible back in the day. Right. Every time that came in the mail, my mom could attest to this. I would tear through it for days. Circle things and take little notes. So yeah, I'd say I was a sneakerhead.
It is kind of crazy that East Bay is gone. Like that is, if you think about it, like old school, it's like one of those ones that hung in there. I mean, it used to be mail order. Like you basically called on the phone,
gave
them your address, credit card. They shipped it out to. It was like pre website.
Yeah, for sure.
That was the dream back then. And was it bought by someone else and then kind of just, it was.
So I think Foot Locker is currently the owner.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
And
I mean, I would
rest in peace.
keep the branding, keep the stuff that's something that you could throw on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
And
I'd be surprised if it doesn't show up again at some point.
Or the East Bay collection. like the premium basketball, premium run.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, we're flying off the topic here. Yeah, so I mean, you look at this shoe, and I'm guessing there's some challenges that you were going to have because Tracksmith has an aesthetic that isn't necessarily super modern. It leans more into heritage, classic styling. When you start a project like this, how does it even, like, how do you start sketching it out or getting it ready to go?
Yeah, I'd say in this case, from a design exercise, it was more about kind of boiling it down. And to me, I think that's been my process from the beginning. I'm really all about the essentials, like what does a shoe need to have and what's frivolous. And I think in this case, it was kind of, what makes it iconic, what makes it Tracksmith, and what don't we need. So really kind of building a shoe that we knew performed really well, and then just boiling it down to the only ingredients, the only things that we need.
See, I'd love to see the sketches to see how it went from like shoe to kind of get it into the look and feel of the brand. Because you guys nailed it as far as aesthetics wise and details.
For sure.
Appreciate that.
Robbie's famous quote now is it's very Tracksmithy.
Yeah.
We all heard it.
It's not a bad thing. It just is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So from start to finish, how long did it take you said it was about 2 years, or you've been there 2 years?
So I've been there 2 years, so 2 years plus.
Okay.
3-4 years, I believe they were working on it prior to when I got there. And, by the time I was there, we had a shoe we were already testing and kind of iterating upon. So 2 years of that got us here.
Cool. Let's get a little bit into the design and, the parts that make up the shoe. And then I want to talk a little bit because I think one of the biggest responses that we've gotten online and stuff, there seems to be one group of people who's like, I don't care. I love Tracksmith. Price doesn't matter. There's another group that's like, why is this shoe at a price that's at what I would say is venturing into the premium race day shoe? I would say that's kind of been owned by race day shoes once you get over $200. And this shoe's intention, if I'm correct, is more of like, this is a daily trainer.
Yep.
This is a do-it-all, like majority of your miles. Yeah.
Yep.
But this isn't the one that you might line up at, Boston Marathon I'm sure people will.
Yeah.
But it's not like if you're trying to go for a PR, if you're an elite athlete, you're probably going to go with something with a plate and et cetera.
Yeah, I agree.
All the other stuff.
Yeah.
Even though this does have some ingredients that you're going to find familiar with a race day shoe. So let's talk a little bit about the details. You said it's classic. What makes this a classic running shoe? Like, why do I look at it and go, yeah, that feels familiar. That looks familiar, the silhouette.
So I think one is just the overall cleanliness. You're not seeing a bunch of reflective materials or prints and things added to the materials themselves. You're really seeing kind of the raw material without any embellishment. There's some details and hints towards constructions we use in apparel. I think that's also what you can kind of, if you know Tracksmith, you can see that in the shoe. But one of the most striking things to me about the shoe and about shoes in general is color blocking. So what stands out when you're 10 feet away versus when you're 2 feet away. And I think that iconic, the sash along the side of the shoe, as well as kind of just the intricacies of different whites on the shoe. If you look really closely, I think that's where you see the classic nature.
What I was actually surprised about is the midsole has that ivory off-white. And I thought maybe that was like, how sometimes the foam comes out and it has that color. I was like, oh, that. And then I flipped it over and I was like, oh, wait a second. That is actually added to give it that, like you said, tonal, it's intentional design. So going in all the details, Robbie, you got the little hang tag in the back. But even the stuff that you get into, like I did notice now that you mention it, there's no printing on the shoe. It's all stitched, embroidered. Everything is that. But even when we pull out this midsole, and I kind of want to, not midsole, the insole, I kind of want to go over this because I think that people don't understand. If you haven't held the shoe and pulled it apart, you don't understand that this isn't your traditional just layer of foam over top. But it's also embroidered footbed. You have a little poetry on here that we've talked about before. I
think that's what the Tracksmith came in.
Yeah, it is.
But I love that. It is
I like it.
It is Tracksmith, but it's also attention to details. Like, hey, we have this space here that we can do something with. Why don't we do something intentional? It does show that whomever was designing on the shoe or working on the shoe took that extra minute to be like, hey, we can do something fun here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we knew from the beginning of when I started that this was the magic of the shoe, this footbed insole, which is a bit more substantial in thickness, but also in kind of how it's created, a bit more substantial than a typical sock liner insole. So we wanted to make sure it was special, that it could stand alone when you take it out, that you feel that premium nature of that piece of the shoe, and wanted to pay attention to every detail there. So even the details on the bottom, that was internal discussion, like what should be there and how can we really utilize that to tell people it's Tracksmith, in a way.
Yeah.
So we really spent a lot of time on that component of the shoe. It's something that you discover also. So I think that's part of Tracksmith and how we think about product. It's not always in your face. You see the technology or see what's special about it. You have to touch and feel it to really experience it. So in this case, I think for the footbed, the sock liner, that was where we spent the money.
And can you talk about the composition of it? Because I think that's that's a lot different than other insoles.
Yeah, so typically P-backs, we talked about that a little bit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
P-backs is kind of the magical material of today, the most premium, the best performing.
Can I stop you there for one quick second?
Yeah, of course.
We always talk about P-backs.
Yeah.
And it's a brand name. It's like Kleenex or one of those things.
Yes.
But
So PIBA is the scientific name.
yeah, what is it?
So EVA, I think, is what people commonly know as like a midsole material, or the foam part of your shoe on the bottom that you stand on. PIBA is just a different type of compound that we use now for midsole materials.
What is that? Elastic visco polymer or something?
PIBA with a B.
No, I'm talking about the EVA.
Oh, EVA, yeah.
Yeah.
Expanded,
Something crazy.
should know.
Robbie will look it up.
Yeah, I should know that.
But P-backs, so it's made out of an entirely different material than EVA.
Yes. So the material itself is different. Go ahead.
Ethyl vinyl acetate.
Ethyl.
There you
Should
go.
have known that one. Thank you.
Sounds like a hard drug. Ethyl vinyl.
That should be the name of your next album.
Don't eat your shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Might find that in a crack pipe in a back alley.
But chemically, this is different, and it has a
Yes.
different energy return.
Yes. So
And
it's
lifespan.
it's lighter in weight. I think you go back to your science class, it's just a lighter compound in general. And what we also find is that it performs better. So it gives you a bit more return of that energy that you're putting into the ground as you run.
What about lifespan? Is it holding up pretty well in this format?
Yeah, so I would say durability is similar to EVA. The way that it wears, or the way that it degrades is the scientific word, is a little bit different. So EVA kind of degrades from day one, starts to get less performant over time. PIBA keeps its performance consistent for a longer period of time before it degrades.
Okay. So am I correct that not only the top sole here is P-backs, but isn't the midsole?
They are both P-backs. Yeah, two different hardnesses. So the one that's inside the shoe is softer. The one that you feel kind of as you step into the shoe gives you that comfort. And the one on the outside is for that bounce. We make it a little bit firmer to give you a bit more energy return.
So snappiness comes from that.
Exactly.
And it's another reason why sometimes with P-back shoes, you're going to find a plate, because if the durometer is soft, you're going to add the plate to give it that snap.
That's part of it. I think we're still investigating that for us in Tracksmith, but in general, the idea is that because P-backs is softer and it's more easy, when it's softer, it's more easy to bottom out. Basically, the plate can help with that aspect of the performance. Obviously, there are other things that the plate does for you that may help your performance as well.
Awesome. Do you want to talk about pine needles?
Yeah. So one of the
segue.
Pine needles, great starter for fires in the woods.
True.
They smell good too.
They do, if they're alive. Yeah. Anyways, we're part of the marketing behind the shoe was Tracksmith wanted to recreate this idea of running on pine needles, or these soft paths kind of that you find in New England. And yeah, I mean, again, it's like the poetry behind the shoe in a way. And so how did you kind of take that idea, that idea of running just free and, out, just enjoying running for everything that it is? How did you take that and make sure that was included in the ethos of this shoe?
It's a good question. I think for me, the experience of running on pine needles, if you've done it, is kind of a visceral one. It's not only the way it feels, but you also hear it the little crunches of the pine needles, and I think it's just a special sensation that you experience. So for me, that visceral, connection with my memory is something that we wanted to achieve with how the shoe felt when you put it on.
Yeah.
So the insole, the part that's softer, is supposed to mimic that, the top surface of those pine needles. And when you're stepping on them, that kind of squishy, soft feeling that you feel. And below the pine needles is the ground. The ground, typically when the pine needles are on the ground, is hard, right? So it's a little bit giving you that snapback feeling. And that's what the midsole is doing for us. So we're really looking to recreate that visceral feeling that you get when you're running on those paths, and bring a shoe that you can do that anywhere you are.
I like it.
How did you guys go about testing this shoe? Like, what was the process of getting on athletes' feet?
It's a good question. So Tracksmith is full of runners. So people who are working for the brand are also super users. So a lot of us on the team were part of the testing cohort. Everybody's also brutally honest. So people, there were rounds when people were giving us really harsh feedback or really tough feedback that we took. And
were they talking in a way that you could use that information to move forward? Or were they just going like, this one's crap, I don't like it, and letting you guess?
So I'm an optimist.
Right.
I take any feedback or any loss with a learning. So for me, any negative is actually helping me make a better product. So yeah, I take any feedback as raw as it gets.
But what I'm asking was it always useful? Because sometimes you need some detail. Like if I say to you, hey, it's too soft in here and I'm feeling slippage because it's not meshing up well, that might be something you can go, okay, I can figure out how to fix it, versus if I just say, no,
it's okay.
I hate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also asking the right questions in the end. So you saying I hate it, I want to know why. I'll ask you more specifically, how did you use it, and where did you hate it? Like, what part of the shoe made you feel like you didn't like the experience? So I think it's kind of about both sides of that story.
So how's that work for testing for a smaller company like Tracksmith? Like, who do you reach out to? Is it internally mostly, or is it other people as well?
Definitely other people as well. I think we have a lot of friends of the brand. People who work on photo shoots or people who are kind of adjacent to some of the work we've done in the past. We really tap into the community. I think that's a big part of us as a brand, just tapping into the folks on the ground that we interact with on a weekly, daily basis, with our run groups. We have the big pop-ups that happen. We make a lot of connections there at the races. So we really tap into our community for people to test.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, when you're moving forward on this and getting more into the production phase or getting closer to it, how was that through COVID and everything that was going on with that? Was it pushed back because of some of the factory logistics type things?
People not being able to get together and just go over the shoe,
Yeah, or just even like getting prototypes back from Asia or whatever. Was there difficulties there?
I mean, I would say that there were, of course, factory closures. We know all about that now.
Yeah.
So there were periods of blackout where we didn't have much feedback or samples for that matter in those periods. But I would say they were few and far between for us. We were a bit lucky during the depths of COVID. We were more in the product development stage.
Oh, okay.
I think it's a little bit tougher when you're in the production stage when the factory closes.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
In terms of timing, I don't think it affected us to launch so much to say, but there were some periods where there were blackouts where we have to be kind of wait and see.
Gotcha.
And I would think, when you're going about this process, your clothing is probably an expensive process to get the different sizes set up and get what do they call the patterns, I guess?
The grading between sizes, you mean?
The grading, but also just patterns and all that stuff.
Yep.
There's a lot of process in that, but I would think that's a lot easier than footwear.
Yes.
And
I think both the raw materials and just the processes that we molding and everything.
Tracksmith is not a big company. Like, how many employees are at Tracksmith?
I want to say around 40.
Yeah.
Right. So it's still, and I think we should get into some of the kind of behind the scenes with how a small company takes
on a project like this. Yeah.
Because I don't think a lot of people realize how big of a project it is to put out a shoe.
Yeah, I mean, I can only say from my personal experience, I've been on teams of 100 people putting out a single shoe. So when it's a entire company of 40 people, it's a heavier lift per person, right?
Yeah.
And generally, that's just the honest truth.
Right, but just also even that in the research and development that goes into making it, and then the rounds of, finding the right factory.
You don't have a factory that's like, let me hop on that real
Yeah.
quick because I know you have an order for 100,000 shoes. We'll kick out this midsole for you in a couple days,
Yes.
and do the
That is a
molds
little
for
different.
Yeah.
I think what we're trying to get at is when you are a larger brand, you can make an order, you have relationships with factories, you can get things going, and the price of also the product is less expensive because you already have the resources to make molds for,
Sure.
all this stuff. You guys are starting from scratch with this shoe, and you're having to now shoes aren't what they were 10, 15 years ago. There's some advancements in technologies that makes it easier, but at the same time, there's a consumer expectation level for a shoe. Like I used to run in EVA shoes like 10, 15 years ago. The feel of the sole underneath your foot was just the shape of the midsole because the foams all felt the same.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going into this like nuanced like era of running shoes where people can feel the difference between durometers through energy return, through all this stuff. And so coming in and testing and developing something, to me at this point, while it may be easier with technology, it's harder with like the demand of what the product's going to be at the finish.
Yes. Yeah, I agree that the standard of running shoes has definitely raised just in the past 5 years. I think what people expect from their shoe or of their shoe is much higher than it was, in the early 2000s even. So yeah, there's definitely that. For us, the biggest challenge was around deciding what those durometers were, right? We're using two different components. They work in tandem. It's not like one is working by itself without the other. So that was a lot of our testing was around, okay, this should be this hardness and this can be this hardness, and tweaking that up and down to get the right the sync together.
Why not just use one block of P-backs or a dual density foam? Why do it in the kind of like sandwich format?
So I think for us, bringing that special foam close to foot was the goal. So getting that pine needle feeling is only allowed when your foot is touching it directly. So if we had hidden that underneath the strobo board, in a mold, you wouldn't have that sensation right next to your foot. So that's a big one.
How many millimeters is the insole again?
So this is about 10 millimeters thick.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's
so typical insoles maybe 2 or 3,
right.
maybe 4 millimeters.
So it's
thick.
like it's having 5 insoles in your shoe almost.
yeah.
Yeah.
Double
You can
stuffed
put it that way.
Oreo.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you're getting a lot more of that special foam underfoot. And then they're working in tandem, right? You want that soft feeling when you step in, but you want a bit of energy return as you're running down the street.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, you talked a little bit about kind of the production, at least producing the midsole materials and everything like that. But then let's talk about, this isn't a quote unquote mass produced shoe, right? Like how many units
I don't know if I can get into the exact units.
All right.
It's not as many as
much
like
smaller than,
but it's
than
a
those
lot.
brands I spoke
It's pretty
about.
small. Yeah.
Yes.
I guess what I'm trying to get to is, we talked about the price
yeah.
earlier.
I think that's the whole point is, there's lots of options out there. You can go to DSW and you can pick up yourself a shoe for relatively affordable prices.
Yes.
And you can get some really good shoes. Nowadays, there's some really good running shoes at very affordable prices, which, I think are reasonable. I'm talking about 100 to 120. You can get yourself a good shoe.
Right.
Definitely.
I do feel that for some reason in the running community, there isn't as much, like if you go to buy a car, that you can get a Honda Civic and it's going to get you the same place as a BMW 320 or whatever. About the same, carries the same amount of people. It's the experience of what you're going to get out of that car and whether you're willing to pay for the difference.
The quality, right?
Yeah. And so it doesn't have to be, not everybody has to get a BMW, but that option's out there for those people who want it. I feel like in shoes, people get angry if it doesn't fall into like, it's a daily trainer. It should be between 120 and 150, high end 180, without considering some of the factors that go into it. And, yes, design elements aren't going to necessarily help you experience running better when you're in it, but it may add to the enjoyment of the overall experience of being a runner. Additionally, there's a smaller amount of these shoes coming out. So to make one of these costs more.
Yeah, I mean, that's just like the Costco model, right? If you buy a big jug of mayonnaise, it's going to be cheaper per ounce than a small one. I think that's the truth. But yes, I think the bigger story is around the ingredients of the shoe, right?
The pee bags,
what's put into it, and how it feels, right? I feel like there is a difference. You will feel a difference between driving a Civic and driving a BMW in your metaphor. And I think we do have a shoe that has a significant difference in terms of how it feels when you're running it.
So an elevated experience.
That's what we're hoping for.
All right. I mean, I've run in the shoe. We've run in plenty of shoes. I have to say, for me, I do enjoy the shoe. I think it is, as far as a daily trainer, it hits the mark where I would think you guys are trying to go. It is one of those shoes that you can use for just about everything. Recently, we did a trip to Houston. I knew I was going to do a shakeout with Tracksmith. Of course, I'm going to wear
Thank you.
Tracksmith shoe. You know, yeah, try to look on brand when we're out there. And you know, I'm running in it. I'm running with Kafuzi, and I'm sure you're familiar with Mike. And,
yeah, I met him. Yep,
okay,
in Chicago.
All right, perfect. And Mike's enjoying the shoe. We're running it, and of course, we get into talking about it. And we're comparing notes and stuff. And the thing that I noticed the most, though, that was Mike was going from shakeout run to shakeout run and doing extra miles while he was in Texas, and additionally traveling, and he had this shoe for pretty much all of it.
He was always on the move too.
Yeah.
All day.
Yeah. I saw him everywhere. And that is I think one of the benefits of the shoes that I found is that it really is that shoe that you want. Like, you don't mind wearing it to the airport. You don't mind, you know, when it's time to go out to dinner with your friends on a traveling trip, to have this shoe. You know, you don't want to show up in your Vaporflies or whatever, but you know, it does that, but it also functionally was comfortable all day long for running in and getting miles in. So I think that if that's the goal, it hits. I think that when we were talking about price, and I'm probably rambling here, but the things, right? When we talk about price, I do feel like people start to think that there needs to be, like, to justify a $200 price, there needs to be a plate, or there needs to be some proprietary technology that you can't get anywhere else, or you need to see Kipchoge run sub 2 hours in it or something like that. I mean, do you feel like in this particular case, one, that it's the smaller company and the lower amount of quantity that's being purchased, or is this a Tracksmith thing where, like, this is the price point where we want to be, and this is where we see our brand and the consumers that are going to purchase our brand? Where do you feel it falls in there?
I mean, I think as a brand, we're all about quality in general, right? I feel like we could have this same discussion about a lot of our products in terms of price point or price differences between other brands. But to me, it's really about delivering the highest quality product that we can. I would say it's still within the range of premium daily training shoes as we see it today. But for us, it's really about the ingredients, making sure they're top notch, making sure they work for the runner, and the quality is there. I think that's what we feel.
Lifespan on this shoe, you think?
So lifespan, I think, is equal to a traditional trainer. It's hard to give a quote of miles, but most people think around 400 miles is a good average for a daily training shoe, and I think we're there with this. We can hint towards the future. We saw how much importance is in the sock liner. I think there are some options there with you know, extending the life of a shoe and thinking about what that might look like as well. So
you're saying to make it more, what would you call it, sustainable?
Yeah.
That you could, because see, I already thought of this one. I was like, if Tracksmith has this one for pine needles, you could have this one for a different surface.
I like that.
You know, you could basically have, like, you could walk into your Tracksmith and say, which feel do you want?
I like wood chips.
On top. Yeah. As far as density of the sock liner, it could be interchangeable. So
like that.
With it being a component that you can take out, I mean, if the shoe's holding up, would I be able to get a replacement sock liner, maybe extend the shoe for another, I don't know, 100 miles?
Yeah, we're really looking into that. We've done some testing around it and want to do a bit more testing before committing to giving an answer to that statement. But I do think there's an opportunity there to, you know, whether it's replacing this or another hardness. I think there's some, you know, opportunity and options in the future of how this shoe might run differently or run for a longer time.
So we're talking custom tuning.
Yeah. Why don't people do that? or shoe companies do that more often. I'm guessing it's not as profitable, but
But it's definitely expensive.
but also, yeah, I mean, or just in general, runners.
Like, what are you thinking? Like,
just swapping out, like putting in a thick insole to get extra life out of the shoe.
I don't know. I mean, it seems like a 10 millimeters would make a big difference if you were switching out. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how long this is. You felt this is pretty firm. It's not like this is going to compress too much.
Right.
And then adding a new sock liner on top of it would be like refreshing.
What's the full stack on it with the sock liner?
So a full stack, I think, is 33.5 in the heel.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is because you don't see it. It doesn't look like a very high. It has that sleeker silhouette of a traditional shoe.
Right.
So it kind of also disguises that. Yeah, I mean, it's really fascinating for me to see this step. And I even, like my Tracksmith box, I was like, I saved it because I was like, who knows where Tracksmith goes in the future? Like, if I could have had the first Nike release shoe and tucked it away in a box and had it in nice shape 30, 40 years later, 50 years later, I guess they're at 50 years now. That would be sick.
I'm saving all my samples too, right?
Yeah,
I got
archive,
man.
a thing full of samples in there. So
the Tracksmith Museum.
I'll auction those off when I'm 80.
Yeah, I like it. So it seems to be well received by the Tracksmith community so far, right?
Yeah, so far I think the feedback's been generally positive.
Yeah.
There's always people who are poking holes in the story, but generally I think we've had pretty good reviews so far.
I mean,
So what is do you have one that has been like thrilling to get back, or an athlete that you admire and respect and you heard back and he likes it, and conversely, what was one of the ones that you're like cold water in the face?
I mean, I'm loving all the you're getting some big outlets that are covering the shoe. Forbes had an article.
oh, dude, I opened my Esquire magazine the other day. I saw it right there.
Wait, you have print magazines?
Yeah, man. I'm an old
I
school
like
guy.
that.
Yeah.
You like to flip the pages. Me too.
I do too.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I just rely on the Tracksmith catalog.
But yeah, I'm really excited about the great coverage we've gotten so far, and I think this is just a step in the direction the brand is going. So talking about where we're going in the future and how we're becoming a more global brand, I think that's the big story here. So really excited about that.
Yeah. Nice. And do you think that, I know you kind of hinted at more footwear in the future. Is that something that's possible?
Definitely possible.
All right.
I would say this, we're committing to footwear in general.
All right.
So
it is a part of the model going forward, you would think.
For sure.
Okay.
We're taking feedback now. Shoes just got in people's closets. We want to know what people think, and now we're a footwear brand. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's interesting seeing Tracksmith come from just, how long have you been around now? Is it 2014?
It's about
The
12 years.
brand?
Yeah.
I think, right?
10-year anniversary
10
next year.
Okay, so I have a pair of Van Cortlandt shorts that are at least 9 years old, and you talk about quality.
They're
Like,
still
I
right?
still use them. The elastic and the liner is still as snappy as ever. Like, I have to say, there's two products that I've gotten that I got when the companies originally came out. One was a CLA hat that still
Yep.
is
Still
in
rock it.
great. It smells a little weird, but yeah. But like in my my navy blue they're actually, I love the color of them now because they're like there's like a patina on them that's like kind of like, I don't want to get too into my shorts.
I like that.
But yeah, I love them.
Yeah.
That's my favorite short, hands down. Period. Like, you like the Brighton base layer, Van Cortlandt.
I know the Van Cortlandt, that's all I wear like 5 days out of the week in the summertime. I'll wear those things 4 days in a row, and it's disgusting, but I don't.
See, I don't do that. I don't do that. I do rinse them.
To each their own, right?
Yeah.
Robbie doesn't think he smells, and I have to say he's come in with a base layer.
Here's my
didn't
thing. I'm like going out for a run. I'm not talking to anyone. I'm just going out for a run,
Doing
coming
your thing,
home,
yeah.
and I don't care if I smell.
I respect that.
I don't know.
But whatever.
I
It's
ride,
disgusting. I get it.
I do some long riding, and there's a couple guys who don't wash their kits.
Bibs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's,
and
yeah.
you'll be drafting behind them. I'll be like,
That's
whoa,
with the wind.
yeah, and
hell.
like my eyes are watering. And stuff.
All right. See, I would wash that for you. Actually,
All
you know
right,
what?
thank
I
you.
wouldn't.
No, you wouldn't. You did it on purpose. Break it down.
And the other one's the turnover tights. That's in the wintertime.
Go to.
You can't beat that.
Yeah, but definitely, if I had to pick one piece, it's Van Cortlandt shorts.
What's your go-to?
I don't know. I'm rocking the turtlenecks lately. I'm really into
like that.
to the Fells turtlenecks, and I got my wind block on today.
It's too bad the
perfect
Fells
day for
isn't
it.
named after Fells Point where we are right now.
Ooh, it's a different Fells, but
Yeah. We should get a Fells Point one. It should just be a little dirtier, and
Oh, we didn't talk about the name of the Eliot Runner because
Yeah,
I've
what-
seen 3 different variations on why it's called that.
Go ahead.
So what's the variation? Is
So
it the bar?
Eliot Lounge is
the bar?
Is the
Okay.
original. That's where the hair. His name is Eliot.
Uh-huh.
That's where the inspiration came from originally. There are
Okay.
some other trails and things that are named after with a similar name. But
Yeah.
Eliot Lounge is.
So that's
Where's the
is
Eliot
what I know.
Lounge?
It's closed.
Okay.
Oh.
So it was a famous lounge that all runners went to after the Boston Marathon back in the day. It was all.
This sounds like an
everybody went there.
opportunity,
Yeah.
business opportunity.
right?
I don't know where it stands today, but to my knowledge, it's closed. And we kind of pay homage to it through the naming,
Dude,
and through
we
kind of
need
our aesthetic
We
in
need
the
to
store
buy
as
that.
well.
We need to buy it.
I mean,
next-
all our apparel is named after Baltimore stuff, so
I like that.
we do the same.
I live right around the corner. I don't know if we talked about that yet.
I know you did. Your neighbor moved in next to me. Your
Oh, yeah.
neighbor
Our
is now,
former neighbor.
Yeah,
Yeah. Our daughters are best friends. So
I did not
it's
know
crazy.
that. Yeah, you'll have to come over then.
Of course, I've been there before. I didn't know
Okay.
you lived there though.
Yeah, I'm his next door neighbor.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so
Are they good neighbors or what?
so far I haven't really gotten tight with them. You tell me.
No, they're good. They're
Okay.
great. They're great people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Baltimore, Smaltimore. It's a tiny place. So what's next? What's the next shoe that we're going to see? Can you divulge any information on at least what category, like tempo, race day? Because we've got the daily.
Just name a couple more categories.
Oh, you would have recovery.
Yep.
You'd have tempo.
Yep.
You would have race day.
It's in one. It's in that arena.
So it's one of each.
Oh, I'm just saying it's one of those maybe. I just wanted the list to get longer so that it was,
They have more ambiguity. I get you.
but we're working on it. We're like I said, we're taking in the feedback now from this first launch. So far, so good, and we're going to build upon that with what comes next.
And is it true that Matt moved to London for the year?
That is true. I don't know for how long, but he is in London.
Yeah, I don't know. Someone throughout a year.
What a,
Yeah.
man.
So we have a store opening there. I think he's there to
Yeah, we went out there.
be on the ground and see things through.
It's in a really posh part of London too. It's
Yeah.
really nice.
What would you equate it to? What kind of neighborhood?
Okay, so there was
I haven't been yet.
on the
So-
way to the shakeout.
Yep.
I ran past like a Rolex, like flagship store, a like Piaget, like all these different. And there's actually one designer, like a guy who's like kind of looks like Iggy Pop a little bit.
Okay.
His store is like right 2 doors down from the Tracksmith store. Able to run from the Tracksmith store to a beautiful park. I forget the name of the park.
I
It
think
just
regions maybe.
probably
Something like that.
sounds like that. Yeah. I mean, it's magical. It's like what you dream London would be like. It's
If you were
it's
going,
there. Like
if you hadn't been there before.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a tiny street. Everything's clean. It's just nice. You'll dig it.
Nice. Yeah, I got to get out there for sure.
Yeah.
So I was doing a little research while
Okay.
you're talking here. So yes, the Eliot Lounge. So it closed in 1996, actually. I have to read this. It says the culture in Boston was changing around the Eliot. No longer could massive horn sections pack inside the small bar for impromptu performances.
Horn sections.
He got a big kick of inviting all of the college marching bands that came into town, Clemson and Stanford, and they just come to the bar and play. No longer was it no big deal for a horse to walk into his bar and be fed White Russians by Tommy and his friends.
I'd like to see that.
And so in September of 96, they closed. But here's the crazy thing. Despite the Eliot being part of Boston's past, Tommy Leonard continues to be a present legend. He founded the Falmouth Road Race in 1973.
Oh, so you know what? That's we.
Full circle.
I think we met him.
Did you?
Yeah, because he was at the. Oh, you weren't there this year.
Yeah.
So this year we moved. Remember how we were in the firehouse for the start? Mm-hmm. Now we were in the bar across the street. That might be his bar. And
would
there's a
make sense.
plaque on the wall for something. But yeah, I think maybe he moved his bar to Falmouth.
Maybe. I don't know. But he's like older now. But
Yeah, he's definitely an older guy.
yeah, so that's pretty wild. I get that. I mean, that's a pretty good legacy there. Life legend. I don't know what I'm saying.
And the cool thing about the Falmouth, have you been to Falmouth?
I haven't yet.
Okay.
I saw it this summer. I was like, I should be there.
It is like, it's all the Boston brands are there. So you had Tracksmith people there, you had New Balance, you had Asics, you had like a little smattering of everybody. You'd be like, oh, I know that dude. There's a lot of that.
Nice.
It's a cool race.
He did pass away in 2019.
He was not at Falmouth last year.
Indeed, unless you maybe you're being haunted and you didn't.
He might have been on the plaque though outside the restaurant.
That could be.
I'm pretty sure he
was
is.
there in spirit for sure.
Yeah,
that's awesome though.
Because there's a plaque to the founder right outside the restaurant.
Man, that looked like a cool bar to hang out at. That would have been rad to just party there.
Horses
afterwards.
and marching bands.
Right.
I got an idea. All three of us are here in Baltimore. We're in sort of the bar district.
Yeah.
Eliot Lounge.
Yeah, let's make one.
We can make it happen.
Yeah.
There might be some things available down there.
Yeah. We could always just throw
there are.
We could throw a sign out front every Thursday, Eliot Lounge.
Just gotta get the license. Yeah.
Oh man.
But,
all right.
Well, this is exciting stuff. We are definitely interested in seeing what you come up with next. Guys, if you're listening to this and you haven't seen it, we're doing a little video where Brent goes over the shoe with Robbie and breaks it down and gives us all the details of why this is a special shoe.
All right.
One of the things I love is you guys did incorporate a gusseted tongue. I don't even know if you call that a gusseted tongue. What do you call it when it goes all the way down, like over the sock?
I think the simple name is a half booty. So it's like a
half booty,
a full lining inside that's attached to the tongue.
There we go.
It's a seamless forefoot.
I'm normally a full booty guy, but
I'm a half booty guy. I love these half booties. But it creates a nice sensation and also lets you have, a lighter weight material on the upper. So, yeah, well done. I'm enjoying getting some miles in these. I'll let Robbie go over the shoe with you and look for that on YouTube.
All right, cool.
Love it. Thank you guys.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming in.